With no major Nintendo Direct since last September, or random Twitter drops, fans have been desperate for any news on first-party games. One game has seen no official updates since its announcement, the sequel to Breath of the Wild. However, hints on its status, or even, ideally, an upcoming release, have come from an interesting source. As unpredictable as Nintendo is, there will always be patterns that hint towards new announcements. One of the most reliable indicators is merchandise lines. This is heavily used with the Pokemon franchise, and one of the major reasons there's such a short development window for each new title. Beyond entire new titles, we've already seen merchandise come out to promote a game shortly before a company releases new DLC. Looking at the original Breath of the Wild, the Link, Bokoblin, and Cheetah Slate plush toys were released a month before the Champion's Ballad was shadow dropped at the Game Awards. The merchandise schedule perfectly aligned with peak interest in Breath of the Wild. The first pack of the DLC had been released, which reignited interest in the title after most players beat the main campaign. Fans thoroughly discussed the game as they wondered what the second DLC pack had in store. Breath of the Wild was also a contender for many awards, most notably Game of the Year. With so many discussions surrounding the game's success and future possibilities, merchandise was easy to promote and to sell. I know many Nintendo fans are clamoring for the Mario All-Stars rumor to be true, and pointing towards the influx in Mario merchandise to validate these claims. If more merchandise is produced to celebrate the 35th anniversary, then the rumor of a 3D All-Stars collection and a 3D World remaster must also be true. On the other hand, it's not odd to see Mario merchandise during Mario's 35th anniversary. It is odd to see Breath of the Wild merchandise 3 years after the game's launch. That is, if the sequel's release date is still far away. Recently, SANEI BOEKI, distributed by Little Buddy in the United States, announced a Breath of the Wild Zelda plush toy. However, the Amazon Japan previews show that the plush has long hair, Zelda's design in the original Breath of the Wild. If it were the sequel design, there'd be a much stronger case for this speculation. Still, a Zelda plush toy 3 years after the game's release, when a Bokoblin and the literal Cheetah Slate got a plush before her, seems odd unless it's followed by new information to reignite fan interest in the title. I'd argue that despite this year being Mario's 35th anniversary, that Breath of the Wild 2 being the 2020 holiday title is more likely than the posited Mario 3D All-Stars collection. It just doesn't seem very Nintendo-like to package 3 beloved cult classic games remastered into one package for the price of $60 and release it alongside a separate port of Super Mario 3D World Deluxe. Just look at Nintendo's track record. Wii U ports like Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, and Mario Kart 8 were all priced for the full $60 retail price. Link's Awakening, a remaster of the Game Boy title by the same name, was also priced at $60. Pikmin 3 Deluxe was announced to be coming to Switch this year, and the original digital download on the Wii U's eShop, which was listed at $20, was immediately taken down. Nintendo is forcing people interested in the series to either find and purchase a used physical copy or buy the remaster on Switch. Considering all this, I find it highly unlikely Nintendo would be generous enough to bundle 3 mainline Mario titles into one $60 package. If Nintendo decides to meet the demand for games like Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, or Super Mario Galaxy to be remastered for the Nintendo Switch, they would space out the release and mark each one with a full $60 price tag. Also, keep in mind the other things Nintendo was planning for this year to celebrate Mario, though we can't fully experience many of them because of the current pandemic. Mario got an entire amusement park world at Universal Studios in Japan to honor his anniversary and to promote the 2020 Tokyo Olympics tourism spike. There's also a heavy push towards merch. Nintendo couldn't have predicted this, and most likely didn't plan a big collection of games to compensate for the experiences lost due to COVID-19. They most likely assumed a big merchandise campaign and a literal Super Mario World theme park would be enough, with maybe one little surprise title thrown into the midst of ports we're getting this year. But this would leave an empty slot for this year's big holiday title, and I believe it will be Breath of the Wild 2. Supporting this theory is a listing for the sequel. WTNT, a French retailer known for leaking the Witcher 3 port on the Nintendo Switch, recently posted a listing for Breath of the Wild 2 Collector's Edition. Since they were right about The Witcher 3, many gamers hope this points to the sequel coming out this year. Note how all the Breath of the Wild merchandise is slated to release late 2020, around the time the WTNT listing stated Breath of the Wild 2's Collector's Edition would release. We've also seen a listing for Skyward Sword on Amazon UK. Some have taken this as a hint that this year will be Mario focused and next year will be Zelda focused. I still find this unlikely. Next year is the 10th anniversary of Skyward Sword. If Nintendo sticks to releasing one Zelda game a year, it would make more sense to release Breath of the Wild 2 this year, so that the sequel and the remaster don't cannibalize each other's sales next holiday season. In the past, Zelda games have gotten HD remasters on their 10th anniversary. Wind Waker was initially released in Japan in 2002, but in North America and Europe in 2003. It was re-released on the Wii U in HD in 2013. In 2006, Twilight Princess was released. In 2016, Twilight Princess HD was released. It stands to reason that if Nintendo releases one Zelda game each year, that Skyward Sword HD has a higher chance of releasing 2021 to continue this pattern. Assuming Nintendo keeps its tradition of releasing only one Zelda title a year, that would leave Breath of the Wild 2 to be released in 2020 or, less ideal, 2022. But holiday 2020 is much more likely. This timing would be similar to the announcement release window of Super Mario Odyssey. Super Mario Odyssey was announced in July, then released in October of the same year. Though Zelda titles usually have longer windows between announcement and release, as a sequel of a critically acclaimed game, Nintendo doesn't need to create the same hype cycle they would for an entirely new installment. The game is easier to market because it's on a console with a large install base, a huge portion of whom played the original. Not to mention, we've already seen a full-fledged trailer for the game. There's a vested interest in Breath of the Wild and its sequel. I love Breath of the Wild, and I'm excited to see what the sequel has in store for us. I could be wrong about Mario 3D All-Stars, and that would be great. I'd love the chance to play these games, I just doubt Nintendo would package them in such a consumer-friendly way. We could see a Mario 3D All-Stars Collection, a 3D Deluxe port, and a Skyward Sword remaster this year, with Breath of the Wild 2 coming next year. Nintendo's always been unpredictable. It's important to note that this year we've hit some hard times, and development teams in Japan are struggling to adapt to remote work, which could affect the release of several games. Only time will tell. A lot of us are stuck indoors, and our only forms of entertainment are what we can consume without going outside. Television, movies, games. Games are a great form of escapism, and I think that's where a lot of the appeal of a Mario 3D All-Stars collection comes from. We're trapped inside, feeling mentally drained, and having these games people grew up loving remastered on a console we love and can take with us anywhere when we can actually go places is a dream come true. But I'm afraid we're setting ourselves up for disappointment. Mario merchandise during an anniversary and board meetings in September doesn't support the theory that we'll be seeing this big collection of games. Taking a look at the last Mario anniversary, his 30th anniversary, there was a merchandise push with Hot Wheels and we received just one game, Super Mario Maker. Replace Hot Wheels with Legos and Super Mario Maker with Paper Mario, and it's a 1-to-1. Breath of the Wild 2, however, seems to be gearing up for release. From the new merchandise coming out years after the original's initial release to listings found on previously credible retailers' websites, it seems, despite being Mario's 35th anniversary, Breath of the Wild 2 has a high chance of being 2020's holiday title. Thanks.